Today I've been thinking about Shikantaza, which is a term that's used in Zen to refer to, it sort of translates as just sitting. What it means is, in the Zen tradition, the no mind, or the no self, and that it's a state where thoughts have ceased, or at least they're really quiet, and that we're just sitting. It's just a state of present emptiness. And we've not talked much about emptiness because it's a vast topic. I listened to a recording of His Holiness the Dalai Lama gave a talk some years ago on emptiness, and it was 4 hours long. I couldn't believe it. It was mostly monks and nuns, people in one sort of Buddhist order or another. And so emptiness is a vast topic, but it's a very helpful concept when we're talking about meditation, because when we're just sitting, everything is sort of, we're present, but everything is sort of tenuous, in the sense that it exists and it kind of doesn't exist. It's there, but it's kind of, we're not there. It's sort of, we're in this place where we kind of realize that existence is fragile, and ultimately it's something really that we cook up in our own minds. When we think about existence, that what we think of when we think of existence is all the stuff of our experiences in life, and things that we've read, or people that we know, or our aspirations or our failures, that sort of thing. And that gives us a feeling of solidity to some degree, of that we exist, and a sense of self. So it's counterintuitive initially when we're doing meditation to not to negate any of that, but just to set it aside and just be in the present moment. Because when in the present moment, everything is kind of in balance, the past and the future. And the present is just right here, and there really isn't much to do other than just be. So our sense of being that arises from doing a meditation is really that's sort of the true presence of our own nature, as opposed to a feeling of something constructed, like I was saying a moment ago, everything that we think of as me, that's a construct. And so when we're just being, we have an even greater sense of being, but it's not really attached to anything in particular. And so that's really what happens in between thoughts, in that space between thoughts. And Shikantaza, as I mentioned in the email, is it's that space of non-doing. Because when we're non-doing, then all this other wonderful stuff happens. And so then we get this sense of true, I guess you could call it true self, or actual self, or our own innate being and natural mind. That doesn't really happen, and we can't create that. You know what I mean? That's like, we have to experience it. And so that's the real dilemma of meditation, is that we can read about it all we want to, and we can apply effort to our meditations, but ultimately it's the experience that's the meditation lies in the experience, and that's the fruition of the meditation. So Shikantaza it's that little space between thoughts in much greater measure. It becomes the environment of the world, or the universe in which we live, when but it's not attached to anything in particular. And we're aware of and better able to accept the transience of life, transient nature of life. So I thought what we'd do today is a meditation, the lake meditation, which we'd never done before, as a segue into Shikantaza. I really like the lake meditation a lot. I love water in general, and anything that has to do with the natural world, like the mountain meditation that we've done a couple of times. I really like that because it's about the presence of nature. And I think that is a very important thing, and it's a great thing to bring into our meditations. So in this lake meditation, it's getting a sense of the being of a lake, whatever type of lake comes to mind, suits our temperament, and we get to identify mentally, emotionally, and physically, identify with whatever sort of lake shows up, and be able to educate our physical body as to the possibility of that kind of stillness. And when the lake surface is undisturbed, it's just like a mirror. And when it's disturbed, but underneath it can be a storm up above, but down below, in deep lake, it's still and quiet. So it's another metaphor like that. And then we'll shift to Shikantaza if we can, and just see if we can get a taste of that. So it's really early, which will give us more time to practice, but we'll go ahead and start. So finding a comfortable position places everybody, like I like to say sometimes. And just settling in, and we'll begin. Alrighty, we're just settling down. And just settling into the body and into the presence of the body. Perhaps at first seeing it as our anchor in the world, in space and time. It is our location. And letting all the other thoughts go in order to better enable our experience of just the present moment and being here as we are. So that when thoughts arise, we recognize the thought as a thought and release it and bring our awareness back to the here and now, over and over. And as we do, the mind may settle down or it may get more active. Sometimes it does. Either way, it's the same practice, just being aware of when the brain throws out thoughts or feelings, whatever arises, and realizing it's just a thought or a feeling, letting it go. And as we do, it gets easier and easier. And it allows us to be aware of that moment that occurs when one thought leaves and another one arrives. And as we do, we can settle in a little further into the present moment, perhaps feeling the points of contact with the chair or the floor or wherever we're sitting, as a way to further emphasize our presence right here, right now. And each time getting a little better at recognizing the space between thoughts. Freeing ourselves with any obligation or idea or concept in favor of just being still as best we can and keeping our awareness right here, right now. And now bringing our awareness to the breath itself, the sensations, perhaps the cool air coming in or the warm air breathing out, the ease with which we breathe in and breathe out, the rise and fall of the chest or the belly. And we can just observe this since the body breathes all by itself. So that the breath finds its own pace, its own rhythm. And in the space of emptiness, allowing the idea of a lake to arise. It could be of any sort whatsoever, a mountain lake or on a plain or a prairie in the woods, but a spring-fed lake. And it could be muddy or clear, whatever shows up for you. and letting it arise naturally and vividly. Sensing its presence as if you were actually standing there. And it may be deep or shallow, however it appears. And now, as you're breathing the lake, allowing your body to identify with the body of the lake as fully as you can, allowing your mind and heart to be open and receptive. In identifying with, and perhaps even becoming at one with this lake. Simply observing, observing ourselves, observing the lake that's observing us. And letting go of anything in the way of this visualization, this identification, this being with the lake and the lake being with us. And realizing that no matter what happens on the surface of the lake, underneath is clear and still, unmoved, unchanging. And the more we sit by this lake, the more our physical body identifies with the lake and understands it intuitively in a sentient way. and absorbing the fullness of the experience as best we can. And now in the fullness of this vividness, this identification, simply letting it all go. Allowing the lake and the sensations of the lake and the qualities of the lake, letting everything go. And perhaps noticing when we do, there's space. Before anything else rushes in, or if it does, thoughts arise, letting those go, like we did in the beginning. But in a sense, now we're at the bottom of the lake, where no matter what goes on the surface, it doesn't take our attention. And allowing ourselves to, metaphorically speaking, dwelling at the bottom of this lake in the stillness, in the space of just being. And if thoughts arise, they must, maybe sometimes are just a little ripple in the background. This is not about extinguishing anything, but let everything settle into its own nature. And when we do, we get a sense of this natural mind, this true nature. Perhaps seeing it as something that's been there all along, but only recognized intermittently. And affording ourselves the maximum latitude to just be. And knowing that, realizing that the space has always been there and always will be. and that we can access it at any time. It is with us always. And resting in the space, allowing our awareness to absorb the experience as best we can into the field of our mind and the arena of our body. And allowing this experience to absorb like a sponge absorbs water, so that when the bell rings again, we can bring this with us as we go about our day. And come back to it at any time.